What's that from?
I'm assuming it's from the movie we're going to talk about, but I have no idea.
Yeah, it's from Gladiator. Duh.
Okay.
That's exactly how that lady sounds when she sings.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody to This is Reviewable. Micah and Braden, like Braden said.
Enough with the pleasantries. Gladiator II.
Yeah, Gladiator II.
What's going on with
Second
it?
Gladiator.
What's going on with it, Micah? Why don't you give us
Um,
a recap of the first Gladiator?
yeah, I cannot do that. I don't think I've seen the first Gladiator since high school,
Nerd.
and I don't think I ever finished it.
Really? So you didn't see him fight Commodus in the arena at the end?
Well, and that's the thing, I don't even remember.
Hmm.
So why don't you give us a recap of Gladiator 1?
So in Gladiator 1, Maximus Decimus Meridius is the general of Marcus Aurelius, and then Marcus Aurelius is killed by his son Commodus, and then Commodus wants Maximus Decimus Meridius to be on his side during the coup, but Maximus Decimus Meridius says, no, I'm loyal to Marcus Aurelius and not Commodus. And then Commodus sends Maximus Decimus Meridius into slavery, and Maximus Decimus Meridius works his way up. Actually, I think he tries to kill him or some shit. And then basically Maximus Decimus Meridius ends up being a gladiator, fights his way up to the Colosseum, does a big battle in the Colosseum, and then Commodus is like, who is this guy? Who are you? Take off your helmet. And then Maximus Decimus Meridius takes off his helmet and says, I am Maximus Decimus Meridius, father to a murdered wife, husband, or whatever the he's not the father to his wife. He's the father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, loyal servant of the true emperor Marcus Aurelius, and he will have his vengeance in this life or the next. And everybody says, oh. And then Commodus decides.
Wait, Commodus is the general?
He's the emperor.
Oh, he's the emperor.
And then Commodus decides that he's going to fight Maximus Decimus Meridius in the ring to win back the hearts of the people. But he's going to cheat, so he stabs him before they start. And Maximus Decimus Meridius is slowly bleeding out as they have their little fight, but then he still wins. So Maximus Decimus Meridius kills Commodus, and that's how the first Gladiator ends, but not before Maximus Decimus Meridius dies and bleeds out in the sand and sees his family in the sky, and then goes to Elysium and then runs his hands through the grain or whatever. You know that shot where he's like walking through the grain?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's the first Gladiator.
I know you're trying to be annoying with that, but it was actually, I followed the whole thing and it was really helpful.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, first of all...
So if that was too fast for you, just rewind it and listen to it a little bit slower. I will say...
And Micah is calling you slow. So rude. Do you want to hear the original script for Gladiator II?
What do you mean?
So, way back in the day, they hired Nick Cave, the singer, the guy that wrote the Peaky Blinders theme song, and he's a famous singer. He's written a lot of good stuff. They hired Nick Cave to write a sequel, and Nick Cave was like, I mean, this is never gonna get greenlit. I'm just gonna go buck wild with it.
For Gladiator 2?
For Gladiator 2. All right, this is a really long synopsis, but basically, Nick Cave's original idea was to have Maximus...
For a song? Or to write the script?
To write the script for Gladiator 2.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Now you're not keeping up.
Yeah, sorry.
So, he goes to the afterlife, but it's not Elysium, and he ends up talking to a bunch of gods, and the gods are telling him, you need to go back to Earth and kill Hephaestus. So, he goes back to Earth and is trying to kill Hephaestus and gets somehow spirited away to the Christian era in Rome, and he secretly trains a bunch of Christians to be their own militia, and then it turns into him turning into a warrior throughout the centuries. So it shows him fighting in the Crusades, in the World Wars, in Vietnam, and finally in the Pentagon. And I'm pretty sure I heard that he has to kill Jesus at some point.
Whoa.
In the script or something. I don't know. It's just wacky. Anyways, there's this funny little quote where this article talks about Nick Cave presenting this script to Russell Crowe, and Russell Crowe just said, don't like it, mate. Which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
So Yeah, when was this, by the way? I love it when I get so many ads. Honestly, the worst websites in the world are like New York Times, The Atlantic,
No.
because you freaking open it up and there's 1,000 ads
No,
going
you want to know
on.
what's worse?
What?
Baking and cooking websites.
Really?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
I'm just trying to figure out when this was like earmarked to be released. When did Nick Cave write Gladiator 2? Okay, 2006. I guess he was hired by Russell Crowe to write a script for the sequel, and
Oh.
it was written under the working name Christ Killer.
Whoa.
How crazy would that have been? So, yeah, that didn't see the light of day.
Yeah, I mean, if people were so upset about that Deadpool 2, was it Deadpool 2
That was just here, though.
poster? But sure, but could you
Yeah.
imagine?
Oh, yeah, here they would have freaked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That didn't get made, but years later in 2024, Ridley Scott somehow still alive and somehow still making movies.
Knock on wood, am I right?
Yeah. I mean, he should stop making movies at this
Yeah, but
point.
I don't want him to die.
No, sure, but he needs to just relax and enjoy the rest of his life. I mean, maybe this is how he enjoys his life. I don't know. Do you, Ridley? I guess if this is what you really like.
Well, and how old is too old? Because what about Harrison Ford?
Okay, but think about the last 3 movies that Ridley Scott has done:
Gladiator 2?
Gladiator 2, Napoleon,
Oh.
House of Gucci.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's time to be done.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
think.
Napoleon wasn't horrible. It was
Wasn't
just,
good.
but it wasn't great.
It
Yeah.
wasn't good.
Yeah. But it wasn't horrible.
No, and Gladiator 2, I will say, is less. In as much as Napoleon was not horrible, Gladiator 2 is less horrible than Napoleon.
It's decent.
Yeah, it's not bad. But compared to the first, it's just not even in the same weight class. And it also really feels like an unnecessary sequel. This sequel is about a new gladiator. What's his name?
Hano.
Hano. Hana? Hano?
Hano.
Hano. Where does he come from again? Somewhere in
Egypt.
Africa. No, it's more specific than that.
They had pyramids.
Anyway, he comes from the Roman conquered part of Africa. And he, at the very beginning of the movie, it shows his city being besieged by a bunch of Roman ships. And he gets captured. His wife is killed. And the general that did it is General Acacius, played by Pedro Pascal. And that's how this movie starts. So now you've got Hano just super mad and wanting revenge. And there are hints throughout the movie that Hano is not really from Africa,
And not who he says he is.
right? Not who he claims to be. So we'll get into exactly who he is in spoiler section. It is kind of I mean, it's really obvious where they're going with it if you remember the first Gladiator.
Which I did not, so I had no idea.
So Micah gasped out loud. Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah. So how is it, right? Oh, and then you've got Denzel Washington who plays Macrinus, who is the slave owner that owns Hano and a bunch of other gladiators. He's sort of this
Aristocrat.
yeah, he's risen through the rank. He was originally a slave and then rose through the ranks. Now he's a big to-do guy
I remember
in
when
Rome.
this movie came out, and there was a skit that I saw on TikTok or something of these people in the movie, and they have like this Roman accent, and then someone pretends to be Denzel Washington,
And he has
comes
like a
up.
Brooklyn accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "What are you doing?"
Not even trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not trying. He's
No,
not.
he's not.
He's not. But I mean, to be fair,
I think that's fine.
in the original Gladiator, they're all speaking with English accents. Which why
Yeah.
So,
I was kind of thinking that it was kind of just.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I
didn't think it was really distracting.
I tend to prefer that they do that because like if you let me take 2 extreme examples. On the extreme of not trying to make your actors do accents, you have Death of Stalin.
And Napoleon.
Yeah, but Death of Stalin is a good example of a good movie, right, where it really works.
Yeah.
And you've got everybody speaking in their normal accent. So you've got Steve Buscemi, who's American, and then you've got Rupert Friend, who is British, and everybody's like slight variations of British.
Mm-hmm.
You can say like, oh yeah, that's sort of like the different parts of the Soviet Union that they're from, and that really works for a comedy. It really works for a comedy because then they can just be themselves and whatever. And then on the other extreme of forcing your actors to do accents and it turning out horribly wrong is House of Gucci.
Yeah.
So I generally prefer, the right side of that scale if it has to be one of them. Except Paul Mescal is not speaking in his normal Irish accent
I wonder if they decided that one would be too distracting.
because he has to. That's a spoiler. Because he needs to sound a certain way. Let's
Yeah.
say. Okay, yeah, I could see that.
I will say, Pedro Pascal's voice,
It's very deep,
it's so good.
and he says Rome.
Yeah.
Every time he says Rome, it's like Rome.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, you really are the daddy of the internet
He does.
in this movie.
He looks totally Roman, like just
Yeah.
the curly hair,
The tan skin.
bulked up,
Yeah.
just looks very regal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a good job. I mean, everybody does a good job, right? Nobody does a bad job. It's just that this didn't need to exist, and okay, that's fine. It doesn't need to exist, but is the action at least good? And I would say kind of sometimes. Like sometimes it's good.
It's very violent. It was too much for me.
When it's like hand to hand, some of those fights are I really liked. Like the first time that they have Hano fight another gladiator in that little party.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a really good fight, well choreographed.
Yeah.
It felt intense and visceral. But then there's other times where it just kind of looks like shit. Like when he's fighting the monkeys.
That was kind of scary though.
Though,
But
first of all, what planet are those monkeys from?
yeah.
Those
And
I've never seen a
yeah.
monkey like that.
No. And I looked it up and they were supposed to be baboons.
Yeah, no chance.
I know.
Yeah. And also the fact that he's like full on grappling with a baboon and beats it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no way.
No.
But
Yeah.
whatever,
No. Yeah. No.
Yeah, so
Yeah. No.
anyways, stupid. And then there's a part where they're fighting a rhino and that part is okay.
I thought that was fine.
Yeah. The naval battle was kind of cool.
It was actually really cool.
Right?
I thought,
we liked that one.
especially because we were in Rome last year.
Yeah.
And when we took the tour of the Colosseum, they were telling us about these naval battles that they would have in the Colosseum. And the way that the Colosseum is now, it didn't really click in my brain how they could have done that.
Right.
Because it was changed after
Well,
that ruler, that emperor, or whatever.
No, the floor is missing from the Colosseum right now.
But they added all of those columns. Those columns wouldn't have been there.
The elevators you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the floor would have covered.
I'm saying the naval battles happened before the elevators.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh,
And that's why it was hard. That's why it was hard for me to picture it. So in that aspect of the movie, I thought was really cool because I was like, oh, this is what it would look like. And
maybe, yeah. I think
potentially.
I think she said that the ships didn't actually sail. They were just kind of like in place.
It could be, but it was before those elevators were there, from what I remember.
There was, for the most part, I think the costume design's really good. Actually, the whole way through, the sets look really good.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, the cinematography looks good. Except there was one scene where the color, just
the color grading.
The color grading of the scene just drastically changed all of a sudden, and I was like, oh, so because it seemed like they were trying to portray
passage of time,
and it's later in the day now. But then they show the sky, and the sky looks, like brightness wise, looks identical to what it was before. So before the big color change, it was very orange and that sort of sandy, dusty gladiator midday look. And then when the color change happened, everything had like a blue tint all of a sudden, like as if the sun was setting, but the sky looked just as bright between the two scenes.
It's kind of hard to explain, but Braden's right. The color grading of that didn't really make any sense because then in the scene right after it, it's obvious that they were trying to show the passage of time.
Yeah.
Because it's evening.
Yeah.
That middle section was just weird,
Yeah,
color grading
that
wise.
that was the one time where it distracted me. Otherwise, I think it looks really good. Some of the CGI is a little questionable, like the monkeys.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they didn't have to kill any lions or tiger. I think they killed tigers in the first one.
Aww.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't have to do that this time. Like it's the fighting isn't so good that it justifies the sequel's existence, in my opinion. So at that point,
Well, and the story isn't good
yeah,
enough.
at that point the story needs to pick up the slack, and I definitely don't think the story
No.
is as good.
I think if they had just had it be a Gladiator 2
With a totally different,
just by itself
yeah,
without the,
needing to tie it to the first one so
it would have been
closely.
a lot better
Yeah, I agree.
because they didn't really need to.
No, no, and there are a lot of people on YouTube that you can find that criticize the historical inaccuracies of this sequel, and we're not going to do that because we're not experts.
Oh, you're not?
No, we're just, I don't know. It's just kind of a mid movie. It's just
Yeah.
a summer blockbuster that's going to be forgotten in 10 years, unfortunately.
These are the notes that I wrote down that are
Okay.
not spoilers, okay? I wrote down 3 notes. 2 of them I can share. This is a very violent movie. This movie was too violent for me, I will say.
I
Hano?
thought those were your two notes.
Nope, that was one note.
Okay.
Hano?
Yeah.
Hot as hell.
Oh, you like him?
That's all I wrote down that are
Paul,
not spoilers.
Paul Mescal?
Yep.
New crush unlocked?
But only in this movie. I've seen him in other, like, looked him up, or I think since we've seen this, I've seen stuff pop up on my FYP, and it just,
Hmm.
But it's also, his curly hair in this,
Yeah.
and the, dirty, sweaty tan that he has.
And he has to always have a shirt off and stuff.
Exactly. Or he has to
Uh,
wear armor with a 6-pack.
yeah. But he doesn't need it, though. He could just wear his six-pack out and about, right?
That's fair. So do you like those notes that I wrote down?
What the fuck does this mean? 310 million gross budget versus net budget? I thought a budget was a budget.
Yeah, that means after taxes.
So their budget gets taxed somehow? That doesn't make any sense.
No, I'm just kidding.
What was Gladiator II budget? And then I want to see how much it made at the box office. Okay, 310 million is what ended up being spent. Typically, you need to double the budget for it to be a success.
So it would have been 620.
Yeah, it only made 462. That definitely did not turn a profit.
Yeah.
So that sucks. And the reason that you double it as a rule of thumb is the budget does not include the marketing costs. So they spend a lot more trying to market the bitch. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's just okay. Do you have anything more to say about it?
No, I told you I wrote down 3 things, and
Yeah.
2 of them were non-spoilers.
Okay. I was hoping that this would surprise me and I would end up really liking it, but I only sort of liked it. So, rating?
Yeah, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm giving this a 6.
Dang it, that's what I was going to do, and I always
Really?
feel like I copy you.
I don't even know if I want to give it that much. I think I'm going to give it a 5. It's a very bang average action movie, and
I don't know that it deserves a 5.
really,
Just based off of acting, cast,
okay.
all of the sets and all of that.
All right. Be grateful, Ridley. What did I give Napoleon? Well, okay. So if I ended up giving Napoleon a higher score than this, I'm sorry, because I like this more than Napoleon.
Yeah.
I still don't like this very much, so I'm just giving it a 6. I'll give it a 6. Why are you writing English on the wall of the gladiators instead of Latin out of 10?
Nice. So, like I said, this movie is too violent for me, and I didn't remember, or I don't think I finished Gladiator 1. And like I just named off, for Braden, there were a lot of things that were good about it, but yeah, I'm also going to give this a 6. I'm going to give this a 6 Hanos
Okay.
out of 10. Do I think it's worth support, watching? Do I think it's worth watching? Yeah, because it's not Marvel,
Nice.
and just because it's the same universe.
What she's saying implicitly there is anything that is Marvel is not worth watching.
Yeah. So, yeah, a 6 Hanos.
Okay. So, spoiler
Spoilers.
time. Oh, I guess Parents Guide first. This is rated R for
violence.
Really. I don't think there's any sexual things in there.
No. And I can't remember if there's really any language, but
Nah.
it's mostly, from what I can remember, is violence. There might be some language, but I really can't remember any of it.
Yeah. Be warned, I guess. Spoiler time. Turns out that Hanno is the son of Maximus Decimus Meridius. Maximus Decimus Meridius had an illegitimate child with Lucilla, who was the sister of Commodus in the first one. And actually, so his real name is Lucius Aurelius, because he is the grandson of Marcus Aurelius. His character was in the first movie. I totally forgot about it, but there are a couple of scenes where Russell Crowe is talking to him. Turns out he's the kid, and I really, really doubt that this was planned the whole time.
Yeah.
But that this is where we're at, and Lucius ends up leading. It's basically the same movie. He leads a rebellion. They're doing it so that they can restore Rome to the old republic, and yeah,
Clear out the corrupt.
it's the same movie over again.
Yeah.
It's the exact same movie with like small changes. Denzel Washington, I've heard a lot of people praise his performance in this. I thought it was fine. I just thought he was doing the same thing he did in Training Day. Do you remember Training Day?
Yeah. Of being the tough guy that's throwing this guy to the wolves, basically, right?
And like sort of manipulating everybody and scheming and
Yeah.
and like it's really good in Training Day because he's the focus.
Mm-hmm.
He's not really the focus in this movie. When he's on screen, he's entertaining, but it doesn't work as well for me as Commodus did in the first movie. Spoiler, this is the spoiler section, so regular alert. Denzel Washington is the main villain of this movie.
I will say, I really liked when Lucilla found out who Hana was, and she tells her husband,
Oh,
Cassius, who's the general of the army.
and Acacius is super supportive.
Super supportive.
Yeah. Acacius is a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a really good guy.
Yeah.
For Rome.
Yeah, and tries to break Hano out because that's Lucilla's son.
That is sad.
And that was, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, I really actually liked that scene where they're in underneath the Colosseum where all the slaves and all the gladiators are kept. And they've been double crossed by someone in the Senate. And these guards with bows and arrows take everybody out in one go except for Acacius.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there like, oh shit, like we were double crossed.
Yeah.
And then he has to fight Hano. I just liked that whole part right there.
I did like that Hano didn't kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember why. Oh, because he throws his sword away.
Yeah.
And it forces Hano to reflect on the words that he is speaking.
Yeah.
I did feel like Hano's grudge against Acacius was kind of unjustified, because what has Hano seen of Acacius, right? His hometown is raided. Acacius is the general that does it. But is Acacius like this cowardly dick?
He's just following orders.
Never. Yeah. Like he's leading his soldiers into battle. He's on the front line. He's doing the work. He's respectful to the dead that they conquered, brings them back over. So like, okay, Hano's mad at him because he represents Rome in general, but he also has a personal grudge against him because Acacius was the general that attacked his village. I guess Acacius did order his archers to kill Hano's wife, but Hano's wife was like sniping at Acacius from the tower. So like, I was like, I don't know, Hano, it seems like your grudge is a little bit...
I think that's just the face. He was in charge, and so that's who he decided to point his rage at.
But freaking Maximus wanting to kill Commodus, like, that's one that we can get behind, right?
Okay.
But I guess we're not really supposed to get behind this one because we like Acacius.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
Right.
From the moment that they're ordered to fight each other, Acacius is like, I don't want to fight you. I don't want to fight you. I know who you are.
Right.
Let's just, and at some point, Acacius kneels down and is like, I'm not going to fight you.
And he would have won the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's better.
And
He's
Hano,
bigger and better.
yeah, and Hano finally, like Bryn said, reflects and is like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to kill you. So then the emperors order all of the guards to shoot arrows at Acacius.
Yeah.
And that was my last note that I wrote down.
Yeah.
It was super sad when Acacius dies.
Yeah. Just gets thwacked with like 4,000 arrows.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to correct you. You said from the moment that Acacius is not willing to kill Hano, that's when we like him. I disagree. I liked Acacius from
Did I say that?
I liked Acacius from the moment that he was shown because he represents based Chad Rome
You're so dumb.
taking over everybody. I said that was like my first thing that I said while we were watching this. Oh, Namibia, that's the name of the city.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the fleet is inbound towards Namibia, and I was like, based Chad Rome versus rest of the world, right, Micah? Conquering everybody. Yeah. All right. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I read 2 books recently. I read Old Yeller.
Old Yeller.
Yeah, by Fred Gibson. And if you don't know the story of this, basically it's Texas. They're, living in a log cabin type thing. They're having to ranch and have, the wood stove and having just everything homesteading is what it is, I guess. And at the beginning of the book, all of the men in this homestead community decide that they are going to go to Kansas or some other state up north to do cattle and make some money. So they'll be gone for months. And the family that this guy is leaving behind is his wife, his how old is that kid? I think he's 14. 14-year-old son and a 5-year-old son. And he tells the 14-year-old, you're in charge, take care of everything, be the man of the house. Don't wait for your mom to ask you to do all these chores. Be proactive, pretty much. And so he's in charge as a 14-year-old as his dad is leaving for months. And basically, like the day after the dad leaves, this dog shows up, and he's like this mangy dog. Just imagine like a yellow lab, I would say, but he's mangy, and
I don't want to.
I think that's from what the movie I think is what he is.
I'm gonna imagine a husky.
Okay, he wouldn't be a husky in Texas.
Like that.
Yeah. And this dog is kind of a brat in the beginning.
Yeah, it sounds like a husky.
He breaks into their cold shed and eats all the meat in there that they've been smoking or drying out. And this older boy wants to just kill the dog, and the younger brother is like, he's mine. And it's always funny when the dog gets in trouble because the dog really is the younger brother's. And anytime someone tries to get the dog in trouble, they end up naming him Old Yeller. Or just Yeller. Anytime they try to get Yeller in trouble, the younger brother will start throwing rocks at people and just keep going until they run and run and run away. Like big rocks sometimes. And like even at the mom, like he'll throw rocks at his mom if the mom tries to get the dog in trouble. And so this story is just this passage of time, these few months where the dad is gone and this dog really adopts this family and is helpful and helps keep everybody safe. And he is still a brat in some ways, but just a really good dog. They go on a lot of adventures together. He helps the older brother with hunting sometimes and helps keep like predators away from their farm and stuff like that. There is this one part where the older son and Yeller go out to find their what's a herd of pigs?
Flock.
Yeah, their herd of pigs, I guess, and they have to tag their ears so that people know that they're theirs with their special whatever branding, I guess.
Like Claire's.
Yeah. And both the son and the dog get hurt.
Weirdest moment of our vacation to Milan, by the way. There was a Claire's in Florence.
Like right next to the Duomo.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brandon.
You're welcome.
So both the boy and the dog get hurt by some huge male pig. And the son, like, had his leg torn apart almost down to the bone. And he makes it back to the homestead. And the mom stitches him up. And they end up going back up the mountain to bring the dog back, and both of them take months to mend. And so it's just like a lot of different stories of just what homesteading and the love of this dog. And I will say, this is not the happiest story.
Yeah, everybody knows what happens at the end of this book.
It's just, I don't want to spoil it if you never read it, but I really enjoy it. It's just a fun book also to read. Obviously, it is sad, but
she said it was fun.
Until it's sad, it's fun.
Nope, sounds like Micah found the ending fun.
So I think I'm gonna rate this a 9 homesteads.
Okay.
Out of 10.
All right.
All right. The other book that I read was
New Yeller.
No.
Young Yeller. Young Whisperer.
How'd you know?
It's easy.
I read Holes, which I'd never read before. I've only seen the movie. Yeah.
Okay.
I will say it's pretty close, if not exact, to the movie. The only difference is Stanley is fat. Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Stanley is overweight in the book.
He's a big fat fatty.
Yeah. And he's not in
the
movie. So I still enjoyed reading the book, even though they did a really good job adapting it into a movie. If you don't know what this is about, basically Stanley gets in trouble with the law and gets sent to
not his fault. His family's cursed.
Yeah. And actually.
He's in the wrong place at the wrong time and he gets accused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets sent to a correctional facility out in the desert. I think it's also Texas.
Is it?
And they have to dig holes all
day. 1 shovel length across and 1 shovel length down, deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's about 5 feet each way.
Which is a big hole.
Yeah. They have to dig 1 hole every day. And the conditions are not great that they're in. And the story is him basically breaking the family curse.
Right. It's really good.
Yeah. It was
good story.
Really good. Yeah. So I think I'm going to rate that an 8.5 holes out of 10.
And the movie stars Sigourney Weaver. And did you know that before her, people had to weave their own Sigourneys?
I had no idea.
Isn't that
But
exhausting?
It also stars
Shia LaBeouf. And what's that guy's name that played Buster Scruggs? Let's just look up the cast real fast. Jon Voight is in it, if I am not wrong. Yep, Jon Voight, Sigourney Weaver, Shia LaBeouf, Patricia Arquette, Severance.
Oh, who did she? Oh,
she's kissing Kate Barlow.
Oh, that's crazy.
And the guy from Psych, Gus from Psych.
Oh yeah.
And Tim Blake Nelson. That's who I was thinking of. He's Mr. Pendansky. Jon Voight is Mr. Sir.
Mr. Sir.
All right. Well, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do we have coming up?
I don't know. Who knows? Severance.
Severance eventually, when it's done being released, and eventually 1923 season 2.
When it's done being released.
When it's done being released. For me, not us together.
Oh, I was going to watch Companion. Maybe I'll do that.
That looks scary.
I'm excited. Supposedly it's really good.
Okay. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.